This video will change your mindset forever. Hey, it's good to have you here. Before we begin, I want you to slow down for a moment. Forget everything else that's competing for your attention right now. Put the phone down if you need to. Take a breath and give yourself the next few minutes. Because this isn't meant to be another video that makes you feel motivated for 10 minutes and then disappears from your mind. I want this to make you question some of the beliefs you've been carrying. The beliefs you've repeated so many times that they started to sound like facts. Maybe you've told yourself that you're not confident enough. Maybe you've convinced yourself that you are behind. Maybe rejection made you believe something is wrong with you. Maybe you've been comparing your life to other people's lives and wondering why you're not further ahead. Maybe you've been waiting for the perfect moment to begin. Or maybe you're simply exhausted from trying to become someone you're not sure you can become. But here's something I want you to understand. Your circumstances matter. What happened to you matters. Your failures matter. Your disappointments matter. But none of those things automatically decide what happens next. There is something between what happens to you and what you do next. That something is your interpretation. Two people can experience the same disappointment and walk away with completely different futures. One person says, "This proves I can't do it." Another says, "This hurts, but I can learn from it." The one person sees rejection and decides to hide. Another sees rejection and becomes more selective. One person experiences failure and says, "I'm finished." Another says, "No, I know what doesn't work." The event may be similar. The meaning is different. And when the meaning changes, the decisions change. When the decisions change, the direction changes. And when the direction changes, eventually the life changes. That's why mindset matters. Mindset doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't mean ignoring disappointment. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to smile when something genuinely hurts. It means learning how to respond to reality without allowing reality to become an excuse for giving up on yourself. So today, I want to take you through 6 shifts, 6 ways of looking at your life differently. Not complicated theories, not empty motivational phrases, real shifts in the way you think, decide, respond, and move forward. And if even one of these ideas changes the way you approach your life, this video has done its job. So let's begin. Rejection can feel incredibly personal. Someone doesn't choose you. An opportunity goes to somebody else. A person changes their mind. A company says no. A friendship changes. Something you wanted doesn't happen. And almost immediately, your mind wants an explanation. You start asking, what is wrong with me? Why wasn't I enough? What did I do wrong? Why did they choose somebody else? And sometimes the mind doesn't stop there. It takes one event and turns it into an identity. I got rejected becomes I'm not good enough. That opportunity didn't work out becomes nothing ever works for me. That person didn't choose me becomes nobody will ever choose me. Do you see what happened? The event was one thing. The story became something much bigger. And that's where you have to become careful. Because an event is not automatically an explanation of your worth. Something can fail without you being a failure. Someone can reject you without you being unworthy. An opportunity can disappear without your future disappearing with it. You need to learn the difference between what happened and what you decided it means. That's one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can make. Imagine you apply for something and don't get selected. The fact is simple, you weren't selected. That's it. But your mind may immediately add 10 more sentences. I'm not talented. I'm behind everyone. I'll never succeed. They're better than me. I should stop trying. Those are not facts. Those are conclusions. And conclusions can be challenged. Maybe you genuinely need to improve. Good, improve. Maybe your approach wasn't strong enough. Learn. Maybe you weren't the right fit. Move on. Maybe someone else was simply a better match for that particular opportunity. Accept it. None of those things require you to hate yourself. You can receive information without turning it into self-destruction. That's maturity. And here's something else. Sometimes rejection protects you from something you couldn't see. You may desperately want a particular outcome because you can only see what you would gain. You can't always see what you would lose. Maybe the job you wanted would have consumed your life. Maybe the friendship you wanted to preserve was holding you back. Maybe the opportunity looked impressive but wasn't aligned with who you are becoming. Maybe something ending created space for something healthier. You don't always know immediately, and that's why you shouldn't rush to label every closed door as proof that your life is going wrong. Sometimes a closed door is simply information. It tells you, not here, and not here is not the same as nowhere. Think about a key. If a key doesn't open a particular lock, you don't automatically conclude that the key has no value. You understand that it doesn't fit that lock. That's it. Yet we often treat people, opportunities, and circumstances differently. We find a mismatch and immediately turn it into a judgment about ourselves. You don't need to do that anymore. Learn to ask better questions. Instead of, why am I not enough? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this showing me? Instead of, what is wrong with me? Ask, what can I improve? And what do I simply need to let go? Those questions create movement. And movement matters, because rejection becomes dangerous when it teaches you to stop trying. You become afraid to apply, afraid to speak, afraid to create, afraid to meet new people, afraid to take chances, afraid to be seen. You think avoiding rejection will protect you, but avoiding rejection also means avoiding possibility. You can't build a meaningful life without sometimes hearing no. No is part of the process. It doesn't have to become your identity. So the next time something doesn't work out, don't immediately attack yourself. Pause. Take the information. Learn what you can. Release what you cannot control. And keep moving. Because rejection is not a final judgment on your worth. Sometimes it's simply a direction change. And your job isn't to make every door open. Your job is to keep moving until you find the doors that actually fit. Now let's talk about confidence. Because so many people are waiting for it. They think confidence comes first. They believe, once I feel confident, I'll start. Once I stop being nervous, I'll speak. Once I know enough, I'll create. Once I believe in myself, I'll take the opportunity. But what if you've got the order backwards? What if confidence doesn't come before action? What if confidence is created by action? Think about learning anything new. You don't become skilled and then practice. You practice, struggle, make mistakes, improve, and eventually become skilled. Confidence works the same way. You act, you survive, you learn, you gain evidence. Then your confidence grows. You don't need to feel fearless before taking the step. You need to be willing to take the step while you're afraid. That's a completely different mindset. Maybe you're nervous about speaking. Speak anyway. Maybe you're afraid your work isn't good enough. Create anyway. Maybe you're worried people will judge you. Put yourself out there anyway. Maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing. Start learning, because every time you act while uncertain, you're teaching yourself something. You're teaching yourself, I can survive mistakes. I can recover. I can learn. I can keep going. That evidence is powerful. Eventually, you stop needing to convince yourself that you're capable. You've seen yourself do difficult things. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from repeating, I'm confident, but from collecting evidence that you can trust yourself. Think about someone who appears extremely confident. You see them walking into a room, speaking clearly, making decisions, taking opportunities, and you assume they were born that way. But you don't see the years of awkward attempts behind that confidence. You don't see the moments they questioned themselves. You don't see the mistakes. You see the finished version. And that's another reason comparison can be misleading. But we'll come to that. For now, understand this: you cannot think your way into unlimited confidence. At some point, you have to act. You have to send the message, make the application, publish the work, start the project, ask the question, have the conversation, take the first step, and then you learn. Confidence follows evidence. So stop making confidence the entry requirement for your life. You don't need to feel ready, you need to move. And every time you move, you become slightly more capable of moving again. That's how confidence is built. Not overnight. Not through one motivational speech, through repetition, action, experience, recovery, and another attempt. So if you're waiting for confidence right now, ask yourself, what would I do if I didn't need to feel completely confident first? Then do that. Because confidence isn't necessarily the thing you're missing. You may simply be missing the decision to act. Now let's talk about standards. This is important because many people believe their problem is that their standards are too high. But sometimes the problem isn't high standards. It's misplaced standards. You can be extremely demanding about things that don't matter much and strangely tolerant of things that matter enormously. Think about that. Someone may spend hours worrying about appearances, status, achievements, popularity, or what something looks like from the outside. But then they tolerate inconsistency. They tolerate disrespect. They tolerate being ignored. They tolerate being treated as an option. They tolerate situations that constantly make them question themselves. That's not necessarily high standards. That's standards pointed in the wrong direction. You need to learn what actually deserves a high standard. Character deserves a high standard. Respect deserves a high standard. Honesty deserves a high standard. Reliability deserves a high standard. Consistency deserves a high standard. How someone treats you when things aren't convenient deserves attention. How you treat yourself deserves attention. And this isn't only about relationships. It applies to friendships. It applies to work. It applies to opportunities. It applies to the way you spend your time. Ask yourself, does this situation bring out the person I want to become? Does this environment support my values? Do these people respect my boundaries? Do their actions shrinking words? Am I constantly shrinking myself to fit here? These questions are more important than whether something looks impressive from the outside, because something can look perfect and still be wrong for you. And something can look ordinary while actually being incredibly valuable. That's why you need substance. Don't confuse attention with respect. Don't confuse chemistry with compatibility. Don't confuse popularity with value. Don't confuse promises with consistency. Words matter, but patterns matter more. Anyone can have a great day. Anyone can make a grand promise. Anyone can say the right thing. What happens repeatedly tells you much more. And this applies to yourself too. You can't demand consistency from everyone else while constantly breaking your own commitments. Your standards should include the way you live. If you say you're going to do something, try to do it. If you make a promise to yourself, take it seriously. If you know something isn't healthy for your life, don't keep returning to it simply because it's familiar. Your standards should help you build self-respect. And self-respect isn't about thinking you're better than other people. It's about knowing that your choices matter. You don't have to accept everything simply because it's available. You don't have to stay everywhere simply because you once wanted to be there. You don't have to chase what doesn't choose you. And you don't have to lower your values just to avoid being alone. Sometimes walking away from the wrong thing creates space for the right thing. So raise your standards where character matters and become more flexible where perfection doesn't matter. People are imperfect. You are imperfect. Life is imperfect. Don't demand perfection. Demand alignment. Demand honesty. Demand respect. Demand consistency. And most importantly, live according to the same standards you're asking from others. Because your standards quietly teach you what kind of life you're willing to accept. Now let's talk about comparison. You've probably heard that comparison is the thief of joy. But comparison itself isn't always the problem. Comparison can actually be useful. You can look at someone who has achieved something and learn from them. You can notice a skill you admire. You can study a habit. You can discover a new possibility. The problem begins when comparison becomes unconscious. You aren't choosing to learn. You're simply consuming. You scroll. You watch. You compare. You feel behind. You scroll again. And eventually your mind starts treating other people's highlights as evidence against your own life. But you're not comparing equal things. You're comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's selected moments. You know every mistake you've made. You know every delay. You know every insecurity. You know the things that didn't work. But when you look at another person, you may see a photograph, a success announcement, a beautiful moment, a confident speech, a new opportunity. You don't see everything behind it. You don't see the ordinary days. You don't see the failures. You don't see the uncertainty. You don't see the boring repetition. You don't see the sacrifices. And yet you compare your entire reality with a small piece of theirs. Of course that makes you feel behind. So you need to change the way you compare. The next time you see someone doing something you admire, don't immediately ask, "Why don't I have that?" Ask, "What exactly am I admiring?" Maybe it's their discipline. Maybe it's their communication. Maybe it's their courage. Maybe it's their creativity. Maybe it's their consistency. Once you identify the specific quality, you can learn from it. That's conscious comparison. Instead of allowing someone else's success to make you feel smaller, you use it as information. You say, "That's possible. What can I learn? What did they practice? What choices might have helped them? How can I apply something similar to my own journey?" Now comparison becomes useful. And remember, someone else's progress doesn't automatically mean you're failing. People start from different places. People have different resources, different responsibilities, different opportunities, different timelines. You cannot accurately judge your entire life by looking at someone else's chapter. Your only meaningful comparison is often with yourself. Are you better than you were? Are you learning? Are you becoming more disciplined? Are you making wiser decisions? Are you recovering from setbacks more effectively? Are you becoming more honest with yourself? Are you moving toward the life you actually want? Those questions matter. You don't need to win someone else's race. You need to stop abandoning your own. So use comparison as information. Never use it as a weapon against yourself. Now we come to one of the biggest traps of all: waiting until you're ready. This sounds responsible. It sounds intelligent. It sounds like preparation. But sometimes it's simply fear wearing a more respectable outfit. You tell yourself, "I need to learn more first. I need more experience. I need to get everything organized. I'll start when I feel better. I'll do it once I'm confident. I'll make the move when the timing is right." And sometimes preparation really is necessary. Of course it is. If you need knowledge, learn. If you need practice, practice. If you need help, ask. But there is a difference between preparation and postponement. Preparation eventually leads to action. Postponement keeps creating another reason to wait. And here's the problem. You may never feel completely ready. Think about the first time you did anything meaningful. You probably didn't know everything. You learned while doing. That's how life works. You often understand the next step only after taking the current one. You don't always get the entire map before you begin. Sometimes you get enough light to see one step. Then you take it. Then another part of the path becomes visible. That's why willingness is more powerful than waiting for readiness. Ask yourself, "Am I ready?" You may honestly answer, "No." Then ask, "Am I willing?" That question is different. You can be willing while nervous. You can be willing while inexperienced. You can be willing while uncertain. You can be willing while still learning. Willingness says, "I don't know everything, but I'll learn. I might fail, but I'll adjust. I might feel uncomfortable, but I'll continue. I might not be perfect, but I'll begin." That's enough. You don't need to know the entire future. You need to decide whether you're willing to take the next step. Think about how many opportunities disappear because someone waited for certainty. A project never started. A skill never learned. A conversation never had. An application never submitted. A dream never tested. Not because the person couldn't do it. Because they were waiting to feel different before behaving differently. But often, the feeling comes after the action. You become more prepared because you practice. You become more confident because you act. You become more comfortable because you expose yourself to the unfamiliar. You don't wait for the result before beginning the process. You begin the process and let the process change you. So stop asking, "Am I ready?" Start asking, "Am I willing?" If the answer is yes, take one step. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Start small, but start. Because a small action is still more powerful than a perfect plan that never becomes real. And now we reach the final shift. This is where everything connects. Rejection, confidence, standards, comparison, willingness. They all point toward one deeper truth. Growth requires discomfort. The life you want may require you to become someone you haven't been before. And becoming that person will feel unfamiliar. That's important, because people often mistake unfamiliarity for danger. Something feels uncomfortable, so they assume, this must be wrong. But uncomfortable doesn't automatically mean wrong. Sometimes it means new. Learning is uncomfortable. Being a beginner is uncomfortable. Setting boundaries can be uncomfortable. Speaking honestly can be uncomfortable. Taking responsibility can be uncomfortable. Trying again after failure can be uncomfortable. Being seen can be uncomfortable. And yet those things can be exactly what your growth requires. Think about how easy it is to stay in a familiar situation. Even if you don't like it, you know what to expect. You know the routine. You know the people. You know the problems. And because you know them, your brain can mistake familiarity for safety. But familiar doesn't always mean good. Sometimes you're simply comfortable with something that is keeping you stuck. You may be comfortable procrastinating, comfortable staying quiet, comfortable avoiding difficult conversations, comfortable making excuses, comfortable telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, comfortable choosing what is familiar over what is meaningful. And the longer you do it, the more normal it feels. That's why growth requires intentional discomfort. You have to deliberately practice doing things differently, not recklessly. Not by ignoring your limits, not by forcing yourself into situations that aren't healthy, but by choosing challenges that help you grow. Maybe you need to speak up. Maybe you need to learn something new. Maybe you need to stop asking everyone for approval. Maybe you need to take your work seriously. Maybe you need to set a boundary. Maybe you need to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. Maybe you need to finally start the thing you've been talking about for months. The discomfort doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Sometimes the discomfort is the price of becoming more capable. The first attempt may feel awkward. The second may still feel strange. But repetition changes things. What once felt terrifying can eventually become ordinary. That's how your comfort zone expands. You don't wait until something feels comfortable before doing it. You do it enough times that your mind learns, I can handle this, and that's growth. So don't make comfort your highest goal. Make growth your goal. Because a completely comfortable life isn't necessarily a fulfilled life. Sometimes the safest looking choice keeps you exactly where you don't want to be. The decision that feels uncomfortable today may create freedom tomorrow. The conversation you're avoiding may create clarity. The skill you're afraid to learn may create an opportunity. The rejection you're struggling with may redirect you. The comparison you're experiencing may reveal what you genuinely want. The uncertainty you're facing may be the beginning of something new. So don't run from every uncomfortable feeling. Learn to understand it. Ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Am I actually in danger? Or am I simply doing something unfamiliar? Is this discomfort helping me grow? Those questions create awareness. And awareness creates choice. You don't have to obey every feeling. You can feel fear and still move. You can feel uncertainty and still decide. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel uncomfortable and still take the next step. That is strength, not the absence of fear. The ability to act with fear present. And this brings us back to the beginning. Your mindset shapes what you do with what happens to you. Rejection doesn't have to become a verdict. Confidence doesn't have to come before action. Your standards don't have to be focused on superficial perfection. Comparison doesn't have to destroy your self-respect. You don't have to wait until you feel perfectly ready. And discomfort doesn't have to be a reason to stop. These are not just 6 ideas to remember. They're 6 ways to live differently. But here's the part I really want you to hear. None of this changes your life if you only listen. You can watch motivational videos every day. You can save quotes. You can write goals. You can make plans. You can understand every concept perfectly and still wake up tomorrow and live exactly the same way. Because understanding isn't transformation, action is. Insight can show you the door, but you still have to walk through it. So don't finish this video by simply thinking, that was motivating. Ask yourself something more useful. What am I going to do differently? Pick one thing, just one. Maybe it's the thing you've been avoiding. Maybe it's the decision you keep postponing. Maybe it's the conversation you've been rehearsing in your head. Maybe it's the project you keep saying you'll start. Maybe it's the habit you know would improve your life. Maybe it's simply deciding to stop treating yourself like someone who cannot change. Pick one and take one action. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect, not when you finally feel confident. Today. Because your future isn't created by one massive decision. It's created by hundreds of ordinary decisions. What you do when nobody is watching. What you tell yourself after rejection. What you do when you're afraid. What you choose when you're tempted to compare. What you tolerate. What you practice. What you repeat. Those small decisions become your identity, and your identity influences your future. So if you want a different future, start giving yourself different evidence. Show yourself that you can keep promises. Show yourself that you can learn. Show yourself that you can recover. Show yourself that you can take responsibility. Show yourself that you can walk into uncertainty without immediately turning around. You don't need to become a completely different person overnight. You need to become slightly more courageous today, then slightly more disciplined tomorrow, then slightly more consistent the day after that. That's how real change happens, slowly, quietly, repeatedly, and there will be difficult days. Of course there will. You will have days when you question yourself, days when you don't feel motivated, days when your progress feels invisible, days when someone else's success makes you doubt your own, days when rejection hurts, days when you want to go back to what is familiar. Those days don't mean you're failing, they mean you're human. The goal isn't to never struggle. The goal is to stop allowing every struggle to decide what happens next. You can have a difficult day without creating a difficult life. You can fail once without becoming a failure. You can be rejected without becoming rejected. You can feel behind without being permanently behind. You can be uncertain without being incapable. You can start again. That is one of the greatest freedoms you have. You can start again. Maybe you didn't use the last year well. Start again. Maybe you made decisions you're not proud of. Learn and start again. Maybe you wasted opportunities. Become more intentional and start again. Maybe you lost confidence. Build it again. You are not required to remain loyal to an old version of yourself simply because you've been that person for a long time. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to become more disciplined. You are allowed to raise your standards. You are allowed to stop chasing what doesn't fit. You are allowed to stop comparing. You are allowed to begin before you feel ready. And you are allowed to become someone you genuinely respect. That's the real mindset shift. Not becoming perfect, becoming intentional. Not controlling everything, controlling what you can. Not avoiding every uncomfortable experience. Learning which discomfort is worth walking through. Not needing everyone to approve of you. Learning to trust your own values. Not expecting rejection to disappear. Learning not to make rejection your identity. Not waiting for confidence. Building confidence through action. Not waiting for the perfect moment. Creating momentum with the moment you already have. So when this video ends, I don't want you to immediately move on to the next thing. Take a moment. Ask yourself, where have I been waiting? Where have I been making excuses? Where have I been allowing one rejection to define me? Where have I been comparing my life to somebody else's? Where have I lowered my standards? Where have I been waiting to feel ready? And what is one thing I can do today? You don't need to answer all of those questions at once. One honest answer is enough, because one honest answer can lead to one decision, and one decision can lead to one action. And one action repeated enough times can change your direction. Your direction matters more than your speed. You don't have to transform your entire life this week. You just need to stop moving in the wrong direction, then turn, then walk, one step at a time. So remember this: rejection is not necessarily a verdict. Confidence is not something you have to wait for. Your standards should protect what matters. Comparison should teach you, not destroy you. Willingness matters more than perfect readiness. And discomfort can be the beginning of growth. You don't need another perfect sign. You don't need everybody to believe in you. You don't need permission. You don't need to know exactly how everything will work out. You need a decision, and then you need action. Because eventually, the version of you that you're waiting for will not magically appear. You build that version through what you do today. The confident version of you is built through courageous actions. The disciplined version is built through small promises kept. The self-respecting version is built through boundaries. The resilient version is built through recovery. The focused version, built by refusing to let comparison control your direction. The capable version is built by being willing to begin before everything feels perfect. That's how you change. Not by waiting for your life to become easier, by becoming more capable of handling your life. And maybe that's what this video really needed to tell you. You don't need a completely different life to begin becoming a different person. You need a different response, a different decision, a different action today. So don't let this be another video you watch and forget. Choose one idea, take one step, make one decision. Do one thing that your future self will be grateful you did. Then tomorrow, do it again. And when you eventually look back, you may realize that the change didn't happen on one magical day. It happened through hundreds of ordinary moments when you decided, I won't give up on myself. I'll learn, I'll try again. I take the next step. I don't need to feel ready. I don't need everyone to understand. I don't need to compare. I don't need to turn rejection into a definition of who I am. I can become better. And that is the mindset I want you to carry with you. Not perfection, progress, not fearlessness, courage, not certainty, willingness, not comfort at all costs, growth, not somebody else's timeline, your own direction. So take a breath. Look at where you are. Accept the reality of today without allowing it to decide the reality of tomorrow. You are allowed to begin from here. You are allowed to begin small. You are allowed to learn as you go. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to become someone new. But you have to take the first step. And that step doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. Start today. Keep going tomorrow. And when life gives you a reason to doubt yourself, remember the event is not your identity. The setback is not your future. The rejection is not your worth. The fear is not your command. The discomfort is not automatically a warning to stop. Sometimes it is simply the feeling of becoming someone you have never been before. So keep moving, keep learning, keep choosing, keep growing, and most importantly, keep showing up for yourself. Because the life you want isn't created by waiting for the perfect version of you to arrive. The life you want is created while you become that version, one decision, one action, one day at a time. And that is where your new mindset begins.